Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. And with me today, we have absolutely nobody special at all, just me. And the reason for that is because I have been crazy busy for the last bunch of months teaching, and I am busy no more. I am enjoying my first week off after the teaching contract has ended. And therefore, I did not book any guests. So it's just me. And so today is going to be a little bit of a sort of like an update podcast to let you know what I'm doing, what you can expect on the channel in the upcoming months, hopefully. And where you can find me the most these days. And if you're really reaching for some content, I have been live streaming recently. You probably don't know about it because I've been doing it on other channels, but you can find those channels in the description below. So every Monday morning around 8 a.m. Eastern Time, I have been streaming Gran Turismo 5. Gran Turismo 5 is a PlayStation 3 game, which I used to play a lot of. It's actually one of the few games I've played on PlayStation. Actually, that's kind of a theme. I only really owned my PlayStation in order to play Gran Turismo. It's basically a racing game, but it is a racing game that is more focused on having like a story-like career where you have to progress through the difficulties, like the different kinds of events with different kind of cars. And they sort of like mix it up because you have like this garage of cars that you own, and you have to buy new cars for new events depending on what the event relies upon to make it unique. It also kind of forces you to race with terrible vehicles. So, for example, in Japan, there are these cars, I think they're called K cars or key cars. I never remember what the pronunciation is. But they're these terrible little, and I say terrible, I mean racing-wise they're terrible. I think the concept's pretty cool. There's these little cars that are meant to be very compact and drive inside cities pretty much exclusively. They have little 650cc engines. Usually our two-seaters are very small four-seaters, very light cars. And one of the races in the Gran Turismo 5 career mode is to buy one of these cars and race it. So you get exposed to like these types of racing where you wouldn't really be exposed to it on a traditional racing game. And so just the fact that the career mode is very sort of like progressive like that, and the fact that you have to buy cars and there's not one formula for winning, you know, it'll depend on what you can find in the used car dealership, what you can find in the new car dealerships, the money you've been making from winning races and stuff. It just makes it so much more interesting. Now, keep in mind, Gran Turismo is probably more of an arcade game than a simulation. I mean, they call it a simulation, and it's a not bad facsimile of a simulation, but it's not really a sim. Like, I play Assetto Corsa on my computer, which is a lot more of a simulator. You can feel the wheels kind of gripping or not, and you can like feel the bumps through the wheel, and the physics are very, very good. Assetto Corsa is a much better sim, but I would say Gran Turismo is a much better game. So my goal is to play Gran Turismo 5 pretty much to completion, at least through the career mode, which will be interesting because some of the races are quite interesting. We'll get to that in a moment. But play through the entire game live on Twitch. And so where you can find me on Monday mornings around 8 a.m. Eastern Time. It was a little bit delayed, this last one, because I had a dentist appointment, but it's going to be on twitch.tv/SimpleElectronicsYT altogether. So that's Simple Electronics YT for YouTube, probably because Simple Electronics was already taken. But yeah, you can find me there. And if you're not into live content, that's completely fine. The videos of it are going up on my second channel, SE Con Dairy. So far, I'm having a blast. I've done 3 sessions. I've also done 2 sort of bonus episodes that are also on the SE Condary YouTube channel. And it's just, just come by and hang out if you want to. If you've got chores or work to do, you just put on the video in the background. That's what I love to do. And so I figured if I love that kind of content, maybe other people will like it too. So that's why it's out there. So it's going to be up to you guys if you want to see it or not. It has nothing to do with electronics at all. That's why it's on the secondary channel, SE Condary. Once Gran Turismo 5 is done, which is a fun game, Gran Turismo 6 will be the next one on the chopping block because I also own that game. And once I make it all the way through Gran Turismo 5 and 6, I might purchase Gran Turismo 7. Now, this one is the point of contention for me because really, Gran Turismo 7 has been designed for the PlayStation 5. There's no way. There's not a single chance that I am buying a PlayStation 5 only to play Gran Turismo 7. Doesn't make any economical sense. It doesn't make any environmental sense, honestly. I would love to just borrow or rent a PlayStation 5, but it's like a fifth of the entire price of the console to rent the console for a week. So it doesn't make any sense at all. However, because there was such difficulties on getting PlayStation 5s at launch, Gran Turismo 7 is also available for PlayStation 4, which my wife owns one of. So if I'm having lots of fun playing Gran Turismo 5 and 6, and I complete both those games, I will likely buy Gran Turismo 7 for the PlayStation 4. That being said, I'm having a blast, and so whether or not you guys like it doesn't really affect what I'm going to do with it. However, if lots of people find it a big negative or whatever, or people become negative in the comments for whatever reason, I'll just play offline because it's just really nice for me to be able to sort of like share my automotive passions. It's a little bit different than my electronics knowledge, right? I'm actually very passionate about automotive stuff. So usually the chat and I, we get into discussions about types of cars and why they're good or why they're bad. Sometimes I'll drop some knowledge. It's been a lot of fun so far. So if you kind of have the inclination to check it out, then you can check out those videos linked in this description below. The second thing I've been live streaming, so this will be the second live stream per week, is on Thursday evenings, afternoon evenings, sort of like, for the moment, it seems like 1:30 p.m. on Thursdays is when I'm settling in a little bit, but that could change. It could become a Friday. It could change times. It doesn't really matter. I'm taking Brian Locke and Bit Looney and Sion Unexpected Maker's lead and Big Clive's lead, and I made a second YouTube channel just for streaming. It's called SE Made a Stream. And it's not really findable it's not very buzzwordy, it's not very clickable, but I don't really care. SE Made a Stream, the point of this is that a lot of my projects that I'm doing, they take a lot of work behind the scenes, like a ton of work behind the scenes. Like sometimes 20, 40, 50, 100 hours of work, whether that be prototyping, working in CAD, whether it be programming, whether it be trial and error stuff, assembling things. It just takes a very, very long time. And so you guys, the ones of you who are really into the channel, really into Simple Electronics, you guys will be able to come and join me while I work on some of these projects. Now, I'm not going to be working on all of them. Some things are just too big to handle, like to film around, especially if I want to stay out of the shot. So this won't be for absolutely everything, but every week I put in, 10, 12, 20 hours of labor into YouTubing. And so at the very least, you should be able to see, 2 to 4, maybe 5 hours of that every week or so. So that's why I made a live stream channel. Some people are really not into live streams, so it's completely separate. And the goal is that I'm going to take some of that stuff that I've done, I'm going to take the footage of it and maybe incorporate it into my regular videos. And so you guys will be able to see a little bit of the process in the videos. That being said, because I'll have sort of like video footage of me sort of prototyping and that stuff, my main channel YouTube videos will be a little bit more concise, a little bit less boring, a little less, sort of drawn out, and more like to the point, a little bit more published, a little bit more edited. And so I can really focus the YouTube channel on being more precise, having, a broader appeal. And then if you want to see more about the sort of the behind the scenes type stuff, you will have access to the videos of the past live streams on SE Made a Stream. And so only those who are interested in that sort of more in-depth stuff, they'll be able to go and see it on there. At least that's the plan going forward. I have to say that a lot of this stems from a conversation I had with Scotty from Strange Parts following our podcast. It was really eye-opening the way he treats his YouTube channel. And I think I'm going to try to put a little bit more effort into my video production in order to maybe reach a broader audience, because like I said before, I would much rather my content be completely free for anyone that wants to access it. I also want to focus more on like sort of like tutorial and how to type things, as well as like experimentation and building projects. But the thing is that if I have to go chase a second job to go sort of support myself between contracts, which seems to be the way it's going now, I will be able to put less effort into my YouTube channel. And that's really what I'm passionate about. And so if I reach a broader audience, if I get the ad revenue to be about, let's say 5x, 5 to 10x, or well, 5x what it is now, which is more or less $200 per month. So if I could get 5x that, get $1,000 per month, then I'll be able to sort of, like support myself, not live luxurious, but at least, pay my bills. And between that and the college, I'll be able to actually live, right? So if I can get more people, to come watch the stuff that I make, then I should be able to focus more on the YouTube channel and on the teaching at the college. Ideally, because the college is extremely demanding on my time, I'd be able to get a backlog of videos made so that I can release them on a regular schedule even while I'm teaching in the college. This is a little bit of a pie in the sky sort of thought, but if I can make, 52 high quality videos per year, so one a week on the main channel, I think I would be happy with that. So that would mean 52 either tutorials, how-tos, messing with modules or showing people how to use modules, Arduino projects, stuff like that. The high value, high quality content. And then on top of that, release mailbags. I'll still do the podcast every 2 weeks. And, put that all together, maybe with some kit builds here and there and stuff like that. I think that would be my ideal. And then hopefully attract more people to the channel. And then hopefully, figure out this whole life situation. Because really working part-time is, it's not cutting it. I'm surviving, which is fantastic. And I know a lot of people aren't as lucky as I am. I'm also getting to do the stuff that I love to do, which again, I am completely lucky to be able to do that. But it's not enough. Like I can't just keep treading water all the time. I'd like to, float a little bit and get a chance to breathe. So there's that. And just because I touched on breathing, if you hear my labored breathing, I apologize. Making a podcast like this takes a little bit of mental energy, which means it triggers a little bit of my anxiety, which means that my long COVID symptoms get worse. If you remember the podcast with Scotty from Strange Parts, that was 2 episodes ago, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while. I have not gotten the chance to try his recommendation. And so that's another thing I'm going to be doing in the upcoming couple of weeks is to do that sort of the interval training that he was talking about that is thought to solve a lot of the long COVID symptoms. But either way, it'll get me in shape. So it's a good thing, right? Aside from the live streaming content, I'm also trying to get off my butt and work on the electronics basics series. I think it's a series with a lot of potential, and I really like making that kind of content, sort of going over the stuff that I needed to learn in order to, know electronics to the level that I do, which is not a lot, but it's some. And so I think there are some common questions that I repeatedly see in my comment section. Something like, talking about current, for example, when people say, I have a device that needs 12 volts at 2 amps, and I have a power supply that is 12 volts at 6 amps. If I use this, will my device blow up because it is, 3 times the amount of amps? It's those kinds of questions that I feel, as an insider, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know what the answer to this is. But the thing is, an outsider, someone who is learning, it's not obvious at all. In fact, it's very easy to understand how someone can make that mistake. If you need to match the voltage exactly, why don't you need to match the current exactly? And in the off chance that you're one of those people who had that question and you're listening right now, the reason is that voltage is pressure and current is flow. And so your device needs a certain pressure, so that would be 12 volts in this case, and then it will pull from that its own flow. So your load is what is going to be pulling from your power supply. Your power supply does not push current, it pushes voltage. And the issue is, if you use a voltage that is higher than what your load requires, that could force it to take more current. And if it takes more current, it might not blow your power supply, but it could blow your load. Sorry if that sounded a bit dirty. It just occurred to me what I just said. Never mind, completely technically speaking, it could explode your device. So that's why you need to match the voltage as close as possible. So usually within reason, most devices will work plus minus 5%, plus minus 10% in cases. If it's something you can't afford to lose, though, you may want to be precise on your calculations or precise on your voltage rating. And then your power supply must supply at least the amount of current that your device needs. And in fact, that one you should probably go about 20% higher to make up for inaccuracies. So it's these kinds of videos that I find are sort of like a public service. And not only a public service, but something that I really like to address. I love teaching people new things. And so I don't know a ton of things, but I do know some. And I think this would be the perfect opportunity to reach those people is if I make simple how-to videos like that. I'll give you an example. My how to use transistors video is finally getting the recognition it deserves. Now, I'm not saying that I specifically made a fantastic video and finally everybody is watching it, but I think it covers a core caveat, a core portion of electronics is how do transistors work? And so finally, I see that people are watching that video. It's up above 20,000 views now. And I really hope that it gets a sort of like a broad intake. I hope lots of people watch it, because the more educated anybody can be, the better, right? And it's that kind of stuff I want to do. And so what's stopping me from doing the content right here, right now, is it takes a lot of planning, because not only do I want to make YouTube videos on the basics, the electronics basics, I also want to make website articles. And these website articles will be available on simpleelectronics.ca, just like my multimeter video, which, by the way, I feel like my multimeter video was really good, but it didn't get seen a lot. So there's a disconnect on, stuff like that, but it's okay. So it'll be on simpleelectronics.ca, a written article, and then a YouTube video on my YouTube channel. And the reason is because some people learn better from video. Some people learn better from written articles. And the plan is eventually, down the road, package up all of my articles together into like a textbook, and then either sell or give away the textbook. Haven't decided, but knowing me, probably give away or, sell for very cheap ebook form. And then people could learn along with videos, so they can read, that chapter in the book, and in the book will probably be QR codes, which will lead people to the YouTube videos which speak to that, and sort of make a blended course, text and video. And then hopefully also have practical exercises that people can do at home to practice, like on the multimeter video. And so that is my hope for the electronics channel. The second thing is that I want to do the exact same thing to my automotive channel. So for those of you that don't know, I have an automotive website, danfixescars.com, and an automotive YouTube channel, Dan Fixes Cars, linked, down in the description here. And I want to take basically the parts of the curriculum that I teach at my college, and I want to formalize those into written articles, with links to, I love using Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a great resource for people that are just learning. So my explanations of the concepts, then links to like Wikipedia type stuff, and then my videos explaining more in depth with examples and all sorts of things like that, and exercises that people can do to learn these things, because I think that education is super important. I think that not only will this help tradespeople going through trade school, sort of like I used to do and sort of like my apprentices are doing currently, but it will also help people working on their own cars. And there's some information that I want to even add on top of that, things that are very practical, things like what kind of tools do you need to start in the industry? What kind of tools do you need if you're going to work on your own car? How to do basic things, because we don't cover basic things in the automotive program. So things like how do you know when your brake pads are worn? How do you switch over your tires? When should you switch over your tires from summer to winter? I also really want to make sort of scientific like content, stuff like does penetrating fluid actually work? And what's great about writing articles about that is I can link to not only the videos I'm going to make, but to videos that I feel should be standard in the industry. I always send my students out to check out other sources, because the best way to learn stuff is to hear the same types of information, but from like 3 or 4 different sources, because they explain it differently, also get reinforced by repetition, etc., etc. And so, yeah, I really want to focus myself on education, and that's what the YouTube channel was sort of about at the beginning. That is sort of what its goal is going to be from now on. And that is what I want to do with the automotive side of things as well. My Patreon patrons, if you guys are listening to this, let me know if you had enough of the automotive stuff spam, because yeah, I've been posting my sort of playthroughs for the live streams for Gran Turismo, and I've been posting, the live streams and stuff like that. So if they're tired of the non-electronic stuff, they need to let me know. But basically, my goal is to have everything in one spot. You'll be able to get early access to all my stuff if you become a Patreon and stuff like that, because that funding makes a huge difference. And especially like now, I'm finding I'm running out of stuff to order on AliExpress. I'm like surrounded by all the stuff that I need. And so it's time to just make projects like crazy, and hopefully that'll happen. As for what other projects am I going to be working on the SE Made a Stream live stream channel in the next little while, well, I have quite a bit lined up. I actually figured out what project I want to work over winter on, which will be a Steam Deck. I hope you guys have figured out or know what the Steam Deck is. It's basically a handheld computer made for gaming. It runs Linux. It's very powerful. It's quite expensive though, kind of out of my budgetary reach, but I want to make something similar but for retro consoles. And so what prompted this is that I got a 7-inch LCD. It's actually an IPS LCD, so the colors look phenomenal. It's not super high resolution. I think it's 1024 by 600, but it's pretty nice. And I got it for under $40 Canadian delivered, which is ridiculous. And so I have a Raspberry Pi 3 kicking around here, and I'm going to make sort of like a, retro emulation thing, but I want to make it handheld. And so what's really cool is that I have access to a 3D printer. I have a couple 3D printers here. And so I need to design sort of like the shell. I'm going to design a custom controller for it that'll go, half of the controller go on either side of the device, which is pretty neat. I do have a stretch goal of making it modular. So releasing sort of like a center section, and then after that releasing sort of like my two left and right controllers. And for people that want to use their own switches, their own joysticks, their own layouts, their own buttons, all sorts of things, they'll be able to slot in their own make their own controllers for the sides. What's really cool too is that the Raspberry Pi with RetroPie running on it pretty much accepts any USB controller. And so I'll have the USB ports accessible. And so you'll be able to plug in any controller you want and play two-player. You'll also be able to plug in HDMI somewhere, hopefully, and you'll be able to switch to playing it on a TV, wired on a TV. I'm hoping to go all the way to even installing 18650 batteries inside to make it a fully portable experience. So that's the thought. And what's going to be neat about that is there's going to be literally tens of hours of CAD design. And on the SE Made a Stream channel, you'll be able to see me, design these kinds of things. Everything I want to do is kind of like open source, right? I'd like other people to participate if they really want to. And so you'll be able to design alongside me. You'll be able to give me your input on what you think the features that I'm lacking are and stuff like that. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting. And on top of that, I get to make a proper video on how to set up RetroPie emulation, because I think that's pretty important. And it's another, how-to video to kind of share the knowledge. There are videos like this available already, but more is always better. More information is better than less information. It's always been like that, and that's what I believe in. Another thing that SE Made a Stream will be allowing me to do is dive into more programming projects. A lot of you folks are extremely good programmers, and so I'm pretty excited to start programming a lot more, and maybe getting some guidance from the chat while I do that. Sometimes it just feels quite lonely to just be, coding all by myself. But there's a lot of talent in my audience base. A lot of you offer to help, but the thing is that I feel like the challenge is knowing even what to ask for. So if you want to come by and take a look at the code and just hang out and maybe give me some pointers, maybe give me some key terms that I can use to look up later on, I feel like it's going to be a net benefit to me because I'll be able to learn coding. And once I learn certain concepts, I want to make sort of tutorials, obviously crediting the people who've helped me, but make tutorials for others. Because again, I feel like coding is one of those things where everyone really should know how to do. And if it's difficult for me to learn it, which it is, that means it's maybe difficult for other people to learn it as well. And I'd like to change that. I'd like to attempt to make that better. Oh, I almost forgot too. For all the tutorials that I'm going to be doing, I bought a drawing tablet. One of the things that I found very difficult to implement in my videos is making diagrams, because I have to make diagrams either on my computer, which are straight lines, geometric shapes, text, and stuff like that, or I could make them on paper, then photograph them, and then put them in Photoshop, then insert them into the video. But I think what's going to be lots of fun with my drawing tablet is I can handwrite, I can make diagrams, I can, point at things or whatever. And so I spent a little bit of money. It was on sale at the early Prime Day sale. It was something like 40 some bucks, I think. And it's pretty big. And I've played around with it a little bit, and already I'm getting the hang of it. And so expect a little bit more detail to be added in my YouTube videos, and expect some detail to be added in the basics videos in the form of some hand-drawn diagrams and stuff like that. So I'm actually really excited about that. So I can even annotate stuff even, which is going to be pretty neat. A little bit like Electro Boom has done with his green screened and drawing stuff, but I don't know if it's going to be that fancy, but certainly it's going to be a good start. What other projects do I have? Oh, yeah. Well, I've got the 3D printer, which needs to be finished, the custom built one. That one is a little bit, I'm having I don't know about regrets. Yeah, probably regrets that I didn't make it a little bit bigger, because the deal with the 3D printer is that it costs a certain amount to make it a certain size, and to make it a little bit bigger, it doesn't cost much more at all. So I'm a little disappointed with the size I'm going to be ending up with. It's about somewhere around 300 mils, so about a foot by 500 mils, about, what is that, a foot, almost 2 feet, and by maybe about a foot tall. So, it's a pretty big volume that it's going to be. But I also made it Core XY simply because I was in love with the mechanism. And I don't think that's the best way forward. So that's one regret. But, I want to finish it anyways. To get it done, say that I did it, maybe print some big things with it. I do have some big things in mind that I want to print with it. But then, really, it should have been a Voron. I probably spent less than a Voron kit, but I will not end up with as good of a printer as a Voron. A Voron is a fantastic, if you don't know about it, open source, designed by a bunch of engineers, kind of designed by committee printer. The thing is top notch, very well designed, very rigid, very quick. Mine will be none of those things. But I guess I will finish it because I want to sort of count it on as an accomplishment. That's kind of a big deal for me. So I will do it, but who knows? Maybe I'll dismantle it and have to make revision 2 or something. Who knows? But at the moment, the issue is I've got 3 3D printers here, and none of them are perfect, right? My workhorse, the first one I got was the Tron XY X3A, which I love, but there's a few massive flaws with that, which I'm going to be fixing shortly, actually. I'm going to be upgrading a whole bunch of stuff on it. So that's going to be neat. Now, I was thinking of making it into a video, like a live stream, but now I think I'm going to do videos of separate sort of upgrades. So that's going to be pretty interesting. That one needs to be done fairly shortly, and it's going to be done in, I think I've got 2 steps, because one of the steps is replacing the Z-axis lead screws. And at the same time as I do that, I can, because they're bent, by the way, that's why I'm replacing it. And at the same time I'm doing that, I'm going to upgrade like a couple of the frame parts. The bed has an awful wobble. I think I found a part to fix it with, so here's hoping that'll stop the wobble. And then, so yeah, fix the bed wobble, gonna make a little bit of a frame upgrade and do the Z-axis lead screws. And then the next thing will be to upgrade the electronics completely, meaning the board will come out, the bed will come out, although the mounting points should remain. And then a 24-volt bed will be installed, 24-volt new board, new stepper motor drivers, and I want a BL Touch, like an auto leveling sensor. Kind of sick of the leveling sensor that I have now, which is terrible. It's inductive, only picks up metal. And not only that, but it has to be pretty darn close to the metal to pick it up, especially the aluminum bed. And so if I want to put a piece of glass on top or a magnetic heated bed sticker remover thing, it's actually problematic because it doesn't, like the magnetic sticker is too thick and the sensor just drives right into the bed. And if I want to put a piece of glass too thick, just drives right into the bed. If I want to put a piece of like spring steel, then it picks up way too high up, and then you have to do the Z offset, relearning. It's a pain. I don't want to do it anymore. So, the first things first, probably going to be upgrading the frame and stuff, and then the next video, once I get it tuned again, the next video will probably be switching it to 24 volts, and I have an all-metal hot end for it as well. And then maybe down the line, upgrade to a bigger bed, because what it is that the Z-axis motors are on the inside of the frame, and the bed kind of slides between the 2 motors. But I have seen some designs where they take the motors and they put them either in the back of the frame or on the outside of the frame, and then you can have a much bigger bed sitting in there. So that might be an option, but I might even just keep it small bed and just, change the nozzle for precision. Who knows? The point is I need auto bed leveling. I just want it to be better. And I want it to be able to pick up any surface, which BL Touch will do. And the 24 volt will mean that it heats up faster, keeps his heat faster. I'll put an all-metal hot end so I can print PTG a lot easier. And then that thing will be done. Then I have the Tron XY X5A. It's the bigger one, 330 by 330 by 250 or so. It's a little bit less in the Z-axis because there's lead screw, the stepper motors that do the Z-axis, they have like a synchronizing belt in between them. So you got to kind of take that into account. But that thing would be great to change to a slightly bigger nozzle and also put auto bed leveling in it. It's already 24 volts. I just need to figure out how to put auto bed leveling on a board that was never really meant for it, at least not the, not the BL Touch type stuff. So that's another upgrade. So that's 3 videos right there on 3D printer upgrades. A lot of people aren't into it, but a lot of people are. So yeah, that's going to be that. And then I'm going to have to decide what I do with the Shinwini 3D printer I was sent, which for whatever reason will not print properly. It just refuses. It like blobs and I don't know, it does all sorts of weird stuff. So it's frustrating because theoretically that 3D printer is really good quality. Like the base is sturdy, has 24 volt power supply, silent steppers, full metal dual gear extruder. Really good quality kit, but the software is just junk. And I don't know if I can flash it over to Marlin So maybe if I learn a little bit more about Marlin, I can do that. But the other problem is that the USB drive it came with was corrupted. So the stock firmware, if I try to flash Marlin on it, I'm not sure if I'll be able to recover it. Like if it doesn't work, I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to bring it back to stock. So that could be problematic. This is one of those things that takes a long time to like figure out the intricacies of. And this is something I could do on a live stream because, I could spend a couple hours messing with it. And it's kind of lonely doing that by myself when I can have sort of the feedback from you folks watching along at home. So that's going to probably be on the chopping block for something I'll do a live stream on. Just unfortunately, I'll have to do it in my other workshop, sort of like the dirty area, because the printer's just way too big. It's way too big to be used on my workbench. It won't fit on my electronics bench. So yeah, so that's that. In fact, you know what? I built a whole other workbench, 8 feet long, 2 feet deep, and it's a little bit high, like sort of higher than waist high. It's like bar height, basically. And that was supposed to be another horizontal working surface. But what happened is it got taken over by 3D printers. So I'm going to move the 3D printers somewhere else. And I'll try to get my bench space back. And then hopefully that'll all work out. So I'll have like a rack specifically for my 3D printers. And I'll have my workspace back. And then when I finish that workbench, I can also add shelving and stuff because it was supposed to be extra storage and it's just not happening. So, it's one of those things. It just gets away from me really easily. And on top of that, I don't know if you've seen the price of lumber, but lumber is ridiculously expensive, at least here in Canada. So, yeah, frustrating Canadian problems. Another thing that has come to mind is that I was supposed to team up with a programmer or someone who is a retired programmer in order to make a outdoor weather monitoring station. I've tried reaching out to this person quite a few times, and they are not reaching back out. So either they are really busy or they lost access to their email. I don't know. So that is kind of off the table. But it should be okay for me to go on and try by myself because that could be a decent coding challenge as well. So that could be another thing that I work on as the community watches on the live stream channel and then transition it to a multi-part kind of video project. I don't think the principle will be all that difficult except for the fact that I am very, let's just say, focused on trying to get the damn NRF24 L01 modules to work. So, for those of you that aren't aware of the lore on this channel, I have tried my darnest one time to get NRF24 L01 modules to work. They are little 2.4 gigahertz modules which connect to another microcontroller, and they run, basically you run code on the microcontroller to send packets of information across the air with these NRF24 L01 modules. You can get some high-ranged ones that will go sort of like a kilometer of distance, and you can get some short-range ones which will go like 500 meters of distance. And so my thought for the weather monitoring station is that if I can master the use of these NRF24 L01 modules, which shouldn't be all that hard. I see people use it all the time. It's just I'm naff all at coding. Then I should be able to make a super low power environmental monitoring station in my backyard that will send information over to a more central place inside my house, and even have that powered by a lithium-ion battery that is powered by a solar panel, recharged by a solar panel. When you do weather monitoring, you only really need to update, every hour or even every couple of hours. And if you want some, more precise data, you can update every 15 minutes or so. And so that is something I really do want to tackle. I was pretty excited when this person offered their help. I just hope that person's okay because, yeah, they just disappeared off the face of the earth. And I don't think that's a particularly good thing. But I will give it a shot anyways. I have already all the sensors I need and all the NRF24L01s that I need. I just need to learn the NRF24L01 good enough to make a tutorial about it, and then I can start coding a weather station. So yeah, that'll be pretty neat, especially if I could keep it low powered and only solar powered. So it'd be like sort of, green energy out there, and I don't have to run any wires. However, there will be solar panels in my backyard. So a lot of you do know that I have a couple solar panels that Banggood have sent me. And those solar panels are pretty cool. So one of them is fairly big. It's a flexible 100-watt one. I wasn't able to get 100 watt out of it, I don't think. But still, I mean, it's a decent sized solar panel. Well, recently I got some solar panels on sale on Amazon for about $89 each, something like that. So I got 200 watts now of solar panels plus the 100 watts before. And so I can set up a little bit of a solar array in my backyard. Now, winter is upon us. It's almost here. I mean, it is November in 6 days now from the recording of this. And so it will start snowing soon, and the sun has already stopped shining as much as it did. But I mean, still, these panels are already paid for. I already paid for them. So anything I get out of them is better than them sitting in my basement. So I shall work on that very shortly. The big challenge with me, though, is I have to run a wire very far. Like the panels, my backyard is made very, very narrow, very, very long. So I have to run a wire, somewhere around 50, 60 feet into my house, which means that's kind of expensive. I'll be using some salvaged wire that my dad had in his basement. It's 12 gauge solid core, dual conductor Romex. Really not meant to be outside, but I think I'm going to use it just to start off with. Plus, it'll just be carrying low voltages. I think I'll put the maybe the 3 panels in series outside, and hopefully everything will go well. We will see. It'll be fused on both ends. I think the odds of there being a problem might be low. But eventually, when I get some money, I'll probably end up upgrading to some sort of armored outdoor cable. And in order to keep the losses down, I'll probably look into boosting the voltage up, from whatever the panels produce up to like 220 volts, and make it go across the wire. Of course, armored cable and outdoor rated cable. And then once it gets into my workshop here, I'll probably use the 220 and drop it down to, whatever, to charge my my batteries, which will be in here. I could have the batteries out in the backyard. The only problem is that the performance of lead acid batteries really degrades quickly when it starts getting cold. And if ever I decide to upgrade to lithium polymer batteries, they should, lithium iron phosphate batteries, which is the better technology at the moment. They really shouldn't be charged out in the cold. They really should be in the warm. So those are all things I have to keep in mind as I set myself up for this. And if I were to wait all the time until I have the ideal parts, then I would just get nothing done. And again, like I said, my panels in the basement right now, they're not generating any electricity for me. So even if I have a big loss over the length of the cable, it's still better than not having any electricity at all. So I need to get off my butt and do that. And at the same time, I have to clean up the area where I'm going to have the batteries. Got to make sure nothing flammable is around them, because this is all experimentation. I don't know if you saw in the most recent mailbags, but I did buy a lot of fusing elements. So there'll be a lot of fuses installed. There's going to be some at least at each end of the solar array. But on top of that, I have 2 batteries. So in between the 2 batteries, there'll be a fuse as well. So that should be just fine. The goal is to one day run the entire YouTube channel completely on green energy. And honestly, since I'm using, LED lights and stuff like that, and battery powered soldering irons exist, my camera is battery based, charged by USB. I think it's actually more doable than you think. 3D printers, they use 24 volts. So there is some thought that I might be able to run the 3D printers directly from the solar batteries. There's all sorts of things like that I am considering at the moment. But first, I need to get the baseline installed. I need to get the system set up, ready to go. I'm thinking it's going to be like a wooden rack in my backyard. I would like it a little higher. Like, I'd like it at least, high enough that I can stand underneath it, so it provides shade in the summer that we can go sit under. But then it becomes a little bit more expensive on wood and stuff. So I might just make them low, the stand quite low right now, and then maybe in the spring plan to bring them up higher, and so it can provide shade, a little structure to provide shade for my wife and I when we're hanging out in the backyard. So that's the thought on that. And honestly, 3 panels right now, I think that's a pretty good setup. 300 watts of charging. Now, obviously you won't get a lot in the winter, but if you don't use a lot, you don't need a lot. So 300 watts might be just fine. And the beauty of this is, if you go onto my website, simpleelectronics.ca, and you check out the dreams section, there was this there's this dream I have of having a riverboat. And honestly, these panels, I bought them as sort of like the beginning of that dream. So when it comes time to build the riverboat, I already have 300 watts of solar panel for it. Mind you, for that riverboat, probably going to need more along the lines of 600 watts. But even so, 300 is a start. So, at some point you got to stop making your dreams stay dreams and, go for it. And so that's that. Obviously, if you haven't seen the article I wrote about my riverboat, it's basically going to be a barrel raft. If you guys ever watched Camping with Steve, or I guess his YouTube channel is called Steve Wallace, he made exactly what I want, which is basically a raft, little electric motor, solar panels on the roof, and he went camping on that thing. So it has like a canopy, like the roof is the solar panels, and he's got a tarp around it, and he went down a river by where he lives. What's cool about here being in Ottawa is that there is a river system, a canal system, really, man-made, so it's canal, that goes all the way from Ottawa, where I live, in the Ottawa River, and you can go all the way down to the Great Lakes through this canal system. And it's a massive trek, it's several hundred kilometers, but you can easily do it in a couple weeks. Depends on your speed, right? If you're on a big boat, you can make it down there in a week. But a solar powered craft with unreliable sun, 2-3 weeks. But that would be a hell of an expedition to go on, or just float down the river. So that's pretty neat. And honestly, the cost is relatively low, because if I already have, let's say I finally amassed 600 watts of solar panel. That is most of the cost there. Then you bring 2 big batteries with you, and then the rest is like camping gear, propane tank, a burner. And what's great is all the way down the Rideau Canal system, there are marinas, there are public docks, there are public parks. So you can actually like go ashore, use the restrooms, make a barbecue on shore or whatever, head back into your little boat and keep on going. And because there's a massive elevation change, there are locks. And so you get a season pass, not very expensive, and you basically ride these locks. And each locking station, they have little facilities too. They have bathrooms and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So it's a really doable trip. A lot of people do it by canoe, and I'm thinking, doing it by raft would be really cool. There's even thoughts so that I could maybe rig up 2 canoes side by side. The great thing about canoes is that you can buy them this time of year in Canada because it's starting to get cold. You can buy them for cheap, and then in spring you can sell them for more expensive than what you paid because you stored them in the winter. So what I could do conceivably is, if let's say next summer I would be ready to go, which I'm not, but let's say next summer I'm ready to go, I could have bought 2 canoes right now. So let's just say for $400 each. Use them on my trip next summer, after storing them for the winter, and then wait another winter and sell them in spring for something around $600 each. So, I mean, it's a lot of hassle having to go and find the right, sellers and buyers for canoes. But the great thing about canoes is they don't really go down in value. Once they're used, they're used. If they're still in good shape, they still go for top dollar. So that's kind of the thought. And using a canoe, 2 canoes as a base for a raft is a lot more efficient. You'll be using less electricity than if you're using, a barrel raft like I'm planning on doing, just because it's cheaper. So yeah, all these things that are in my head are sort of like long-term things for the YouTube channel, or things that I want to do that kind of go with the YouTube channel, because then there's, selecting a motor and stuff like that. I would love to build electric vehicles. For example, if I had the garage space and the budget for the motor and the electronics, I would be on it. It'd be amazing to build a little EV. If you guys have seen Bit Looney's channel, he made an electric motorcycle, like a mini bike. And before that, he made an electric, sort of like, it was like a go-kart, but basically 4 hub motors, a wooden frame, and a car seat. And that thing goes like really well. So I'm thinking that on the water, slower speed, more leisurely. I think that's just my idea of heaven. I could fish on the way up, all the way around, because the fishing on the Rideau River is pretty good as well. I think that would make for a great vacation. So yeah, electronics and stuff is fun, but I think if I highlight the electronics portion of a project, I can do basically anything, which would be awesome. And so for the last few days, I've been definitely enjoying not having to go to work every day and not being drained towards the end of the day, because it is quite draining to teach all day long. Even though I love doing it, it's a lot of energy keeping up with everyone. It's a lot of work outside of hours, like preparing your classes, what you're going to teach, making sure you meet the provincial requirements for what you're teaching, making sure your PowerPoints are clear, your lectures are appropriate, and stuff like that. So I have not started filming YouTube videos yet. And so I'd be really open to know what you folks would be into. Where should I start? I've got a massive list of things I could do, more than I could possibly list out in a single hour even. And it would be really nice to know, for those of you that make it all the way to the sort of the ending portion of this this podcast, what do you guys think I should start on? There are things that I'm going to be working on slowly, which will take a lot of time. For example, the electronics basics tutorials, they're going to take a lot of time. I assume for every, roughly 12, 13-minute video is probably going to be about 15 hours of work, simply because I have to make sure I cover all the relevant information in a way that is very concise, but yet still very clear and still accurate. So I got to double check myself all the time. And I have to make sure, it's edited tightly so that people get the information they're looking for when they click on the YouTube video. And I also have to make sure I'm pretty complete with what I've done. So, those things probably not a good idea to start with. I will work in the background on those, but I don't know if I'll be sort of releasing that in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, lots of cool stuff. I'm probably going to work with some modules. Probably going to play with some microcontroller interrupts. I've never dealt with interrupts before, so I might deal with those. I have a few sensors to be looking at. I'm probably going to round out all of the sort of like the temperature sensors that I have and make them work, and then document it and show little how-tos on those. I've got some connectors that I want to check the voltage drops on. In one of the basics videos, we'll be talking about voltage drops as well. So, yeah, I guess in the end, I'd like to know, what do you guys want to see first? And what are you the most passionate about? What do you want to see the most? So first and the most could be two different options, but yeah, let me know, because basically I aim to please. And honestly, since I have an unfinishing document worth of stuff to talk about and to make videos about, some direction would be pretty neat. So let me know. And that'll be that for today. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support over this time. I know I've been mighty quiet on YouTube. That's about to change, especially with December coming up and ad rates getting way better. I need to get my butt into gear. One thing that is a potential, because affiliate marketing has been really good for me. So one thing that is potential next video would be like my guide to shopping on AliExpress, because that is actually getting quite odd these days, I should say. So thanks for listening. Hopefully you'll check my other channels in the description below. If you're not interested, let me know too. And usually you can find updates on me on my Twitter, also linked in the description. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you on the next one.